Hey, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Oak Island Research Channel for a new video. Today it's been a while, and I'm thrilled and excited to broadcast this video. Especially this video sounds like the good old days when Michael and I were working together. So we spent about 2 hours yesterday on the phone, explained him the idea I had about this video, and he cheered up and provided me a lot of material, and we brainstormed together about the content. And thanks, Mike. I know you're gonna watch this video, and it was a great moment. Good flashback of working together. This video will be broadcasted and dubbed in French in a couple of days. So if you're French and you're disappointed, it's gonna come soon. Ça va venir. Dans 2-3 jours, je vais doubler cette vidéo en français. But if you're English, you kind of get the priority. Or English, of course, English speaking. I'm not pinpointing to the English community. Americans and Canadians are welcome. Australians too. Okay, so this video is called Verification. As you've been following my channel, but especially Michael's, as I guess, you've seen that Michael is pushing it, and it's unbelievable what he found lately. Love his last video about the azimuth and the elevation, the measurements of the sun. Nevertheless, what happened in the last month and years after the first brainstorming about the Zena Halpern map, which, mind you, is already 3 years old, 3.5, those brainstormings, much more were discovered since. And I wanted to do that video for my French audience first, and then Michael kind of convinced me to do it for the American. It was a good idea to do it for the English-speaking audience first too. But also, the idea is to kind of demonstrate, and the word is not too strong, I think, that the Zena Halpern's map positioning, as Michael and I deducted it 3 years ago, is valid, correct, and backed up by artifacts and by situations that you can reproduce yourself. Meaning, scientific is a big word, but it's kind of proofs. What I'm going to show you about the positioning. It's not just our imagination. And the great thing that happened, and that's the first proofs, are the surveys. When we discovered the surveys and Michael overlaid them, they revealed things, and they proved that some things we established with the Zena Halpern's map positioning were accurate and backed up by physical proof. So let's go to this video. I don't know how long it's gonna take. It might be a bit long, but I think you're gonna really enjoy what we're gonna browse through here. So verification. So this is how the map is positioned. And again, big thanks to Michael for letting me use a lot of his material. I'm not very good with Google Earth, and I'm lagging 3 years of research. He's got everything, but Michael is sharing everything too, so it makes lovely. So I took this snapshot from one of his videos. This is the positioning of the map. You can still see the Nolan's cross cones. Here, cone A, cone C. Here is the original Nolan cross right there in red. Okay, and there are 3 clues that allowed us to position the map correctly. The first clue is the first one I found by some rhythmic and rhyme and something weird with that V, that little V that wanders, which established the east-west line, where we can rotate the map so that this line becomes a pure east-west line. The second clue was the riddle made of set and petite, showing you that you have to do something in between the T's there, and that's what we did between the T's, and you end up with the hitting the cone C and establishing by intersection with the 1347 line the set point. That's how we call it, because it comes from the word set, which means this in French. Moreover, the third clue, which is the Frog Island here, Frog Island landing, as we can see it here in yellow. It shows you where you should start your landing, or you should start your journey. And this landing line hits the 429 extension point, which is the extension of the Nolan's cross distance. It doesn't exist. It's a virtual point calculated from the Nolan's cross properties. Just for a reminder, Nolan's cross is an alignment of boulder creating a Christian cross shape that was discovered by Fred Nolan in the 80s. Fred Nolan is a surveyor who used to live on the island and look for the treasure, and we'll use his surveys in just a couple of slides. Okay, so Frog Island gives us the 429 extension and lands also on the set point. That's how we determine it. From the set point, if you take 1,347 feet, or rather 1,347 French pied from pre-1660, this distance from the set point, the blue distance, which we call the scale, and the hint was here, 1347, the scale has got the same distance from 1347, which is the distance to 429 extension point from the set line, but which is also, that's the blue radius circle, which is also the same distance from the set point to where La Hump positions from the drawing and the picture of Zena Halpern's map, and positioned like it is by the Ver line for the orientation. The very interesting is that set point is equidistant from 429 and from La Hump. So that's another way, that's another clue we were given, and that's the 4 elements we use to position and register and size the Zena's map onto Oak Island. So that was back 3 years ago, in a nutshell, because it took us a year to figure it out, basically. But you've been there with us, so you followed all those 50 episodes on my side and 50 episodes on Michael's side to reach that point. But let's carry on. If we take a eyed bird view of the same positioning, of course, we see the landing point that I was talking about, that is right here, and that line hits the 429 extension and the set point, which is there. Okay, so that's the first one. And I was talking about the Ver line, or the Ver hint here, the first thing I discovered, which is an east-west line hitting right into some very particular place onto Round Island. Okay, so that's the positioning. Another look at the positioning with transparency. I like this one very much because you can see some correspondences maybe between the Zena Halpern's map and the real Oak Island map. A lot of people on the French channel, on the English side of it, mention that the bark is in the swamp, just like the abnormally picture from radar they've got from season, I can't remember, 2, 3, or 4. I don't know, I don't think it's conclusive, because then you would have a boat somewhere in the middle of the island and it doesn't really make sense. So always wonder, the only explanation I could find was that video I made about Le Bateau et le Barque, saying this is an apparatus, this is a device used to replenish the tank with the tide system, but other than that, their positioning here and there, I don't know. But the positioning of La Barque is going to be interesting in one of the verification we have. And I wanted to emphasize the set point, because it's really once you get the set point and the distance, you get the rest and you can verify your positioning. So that's where we start our journey from today. So we're going to start now our 7 pieces of verification, 7 proofs, by the following sentence. When the map, the Zena Halpern's map, is correctly positioned, 7 noticeable elements get revealed. Let's have a look. Verification number 1. When the Zena's map is correctly positioned, Fred Nolan Survey from 1974 reveals the set point. Let me get back. On Fred Nolan Survey, you will find the set point, and you'll find the 522 entrance point. Let's have a look. So, courtesy of Michael for the picture. This is the Nolan Survey, and I'm going to escape from this mode because I need to zoom out. And as Michael, at least twice in 2 different videos, mentioned, the way he positioned and scaled the survey onto the Google Earth picture is using Fred Nolan's house. Michael believes Fred Nolan himself used his house as the registry point for orientation and probably scaling. And the other areas that match is the coastline, or you can see the shoreline. You can see the shoreline at the bottom, etc., etc. So that's how Michael positioned the map. And the map, sorry, the survey reveals stone piles that do not exist anymore today. So that's why those surveys are so important to us, because they register, and there are other surveys that register the same points. They register the position of stone piles. And whether those stone piles were put there by the original depositor or were put there by people who were looking for something like us, and using them as marker to have sight lines onto the island, it's possible too, but they were there. And what they give us as information is several lines of sight. So one of them, as I say, confirmed the set point. Part of the stone pile is this stone pile. If you draw a line from the stone pile to the 429 extension point, you will reach set point. If you take this piece of stone pile cones or piles, and you draw the line and carry on their site, you reach the set point again. That's interesting, because those markers have been destroyed, but they are registered. They've been there at this position, and there are surveyors who tell us they were there. The Roper survey shows them too, I think, if I remember well. So this is established. This is not coming from my imagination. These were on the island, and we think with Michael, they act as sightlines, and they reveal the set point, which is so important for finding La Hump, for instance, with the distance, but which is a point, I remind you, that was determined 3 years ago by Michael just studying the Zena Halpern's map. So this point exists without Zena Halpern's map. That's my point. That's my point. that's my point. Without Zena Halpern's map, so let's pretend it's a hoax and fake, discard it, the set point exists on the island by the stone alignment. Okay, so that's one thing. And it confirms the 522 entrance point. Just for a reminder, what is the 522 entrance point? If you remember the puzzle pieces, you get the money pit, of course, here. And you've got this entrance here, which is 522 feet, according to La Formule, or 522 pied, French old feet, from the entrance. Because if you read La Formule, it says, don't dig here, dig at 40 feet, and at 522, La Hump, which is represented here. So we call this point here the 522 point. This 522 point is, if you work out the money pit, you'll never find it. It's away. I always thought it was 40 feet away from the instructions. No. I always thought you had to dig 40 feet down, by the instructions. But following a discussion yesterday night with Michael, it could be something else, but we'll talk about it later. It doesn't fundamentally put everything back in question. It's just how large is this and how deep is B? That's the two questions we're trying to figure out answers from. But anyways, the point B here is the 522 oak entrance. And that 522 oak entrance is again revealed, as you can see, by the alignment of this one and the third one, to make sure you get a straight line with 3 points. Important. What does it reach to? It reaches down there to exactly the 522. That's here. That's the one. 522 entrance. Not the oak, because the oak is away from here. It's really the entrance to the tunnel. That's there. So that's very interesting, because that's given by Zena Halpern's map as the oak enter here, and we know there's a distance to dig, and then you find the tunnel to La Hump, and then the corridor, which is probably underneath the bedrock. That's why they use that word, corridor, that will reach the chamber and the vault. So another proof with these 3 that used to exist stone alignments that it indicates the oak entrance, not the money pit. Again, not the money pit. Money pit is a decoy or a service shaft or something like that. Okay, so that's verification number 1 from Fred Nolan's survey. Verification number 2 is from the Roper survey. So this is a copy of the Roper survey taken from Charles P. Roper in 1937, I think, from W.L. Johnson, who I think ordered it from Roper, was the surveyor. So again, let's use this sentence. When the Zena map is correctly positioned, the Roper survey, and that's how Michael worked it out as transparency to position it, using some known points to stretch it and make it the right size and the right overlay. And we're going to focus on those, again, drilled rocks. So there's two areas for sure on the island on the east side that are drilled rocks. The Fred Nolan shows it kind of the north side, and right north of the money pit on the south side, near the money pit, there's those drilled rocks again. And you need to see Michael's video called The Greatest Landmark We Have, that describes all this in detail. But these alignments, here they are, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the 4 we see on the above picture, which was here, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's other on the left that Michael showed. But this one confirms again the oak entrance. So when we take this one that Michael called the on rock with the drill rock, the alignment goes straight to the 522 entrance. Sorry, it's not the oak. It's not the oak. It's the 522 entrance again. That's the 522. So important it is. So those two sets of pile rocks, or pile rocks on the north and drill rocks on the south, do work together and do indicate where the entrance, the 522 entrance, is. Just like Zena Halpern's first mentions oak entrance and a 522 entrance by associating it with La Formule. So that comes from La Formule and Zena Halpern, but not only, it comes from the island itself. That's where it becomes interesting. Forget about La Formule, forget about the 7 pieces puzzles, just work with the island. The island tells us the same as those documents. The 522 entrance is where the entrance of the tunnel is, and that's where you should focus your efforts. Interesting, huh? And that's only verification number 2. And those rocks existed according to those surveys with the precise measurement and precise positioning. And Michael, the magician, overlays them correctly and reveals what has to be revealed. So that's verification and proof number 2 that the Zena Halpern is correctly positioned, giving us the location by deduction with the La Formule and the scrolls of Antera, the position of the 522 entrance. It works. Let's carry on. The same Roper survey on the same verification number 2 also confirms the set point and La Hump positioning. So we were here with those 1, 2, 3, 4 rocks, and when you take the 2 on the top, this one, and you follow the white line, you end up on the set point again. So the set point is the pivot point that reveals the rest of the geometry. Interesting. So again, without Zena Halpern, you can find the set point by the 2, associating the 2 pilestone triangles on top from Fred Nolan's survey and the drill rock on the bottom. The set point is established by the island itself. The Zena Halpern just made us understand this, but it was there. So you start to believe that the Zena Halpern is a valid document now? Let's carry on. It also confirms La Hump positioning because I think I can zoom again on this one. Yeah. So here, from this rock and this rock, if you continue like a sighting again, drilled rocks, great for sighting drilled rocks. Put your eye in the hole and look where it leads. It leads to La Hump. La Hump, again, the mechanism that allows the inflow and outflow. So La Hump is another very remarkable point that is revealed by the Zena Halpern's map being the center of the quadrant. Interesting, huh? I'm myself, as I'm running through this with you, I'm amazed that you don't need Zena Halpern's map. So if you don't need it and it reveals the same thing as what's on the island, how can you tell it's fake? That blows my mind. Let's carry on. That was verification number 2 only. Verification number 3. So now we're talking about length. When the Zena map is correctly positioned, the distance from cone D to the headstone, from cone D to the headstone, this distance, which is known, you can go measure it on the island if you had access to the island. I can't remember, it's not for 29 feet or something, I don't remember, but we know this distance. Well, with Google Earth, since Michael overlaid the map, you can see that the distance from the center point of La Hump down to the bottom, and the little ticker here, which kind of show a length marker if you're working in industrial drawing or something like that. Well, it's exactly the same length without the little thing at the end. This is exactly the same length measured by Michael on Google Earth. Crazy, huh? But there's more. When you position the map correctly, now the distance from, guess what? You see the S of Sud there? I'm gonna again zoom in. There. All right. If you carry on this line here, you would end up hitting the S. The top of the S, which hits itself Nolan Cross. It doesn't hit Nolan Cross anywhere. It doesn't show here. But this point here is cone A. It's a physical cone. It's a rock. And the quadrant hits it and the S hits it. That's what Michael thinks. The little sentence at the bottom of the map saying, Les Sud-Indiens travaillent très bien, the South Indian works very good. It's that south, the Sud here, and the S work very good. But I don't know, maybe. But definitely that's cone A. And when you take the distance from cone A to the extension point, that distance is exactly the same distance as from the center of La Hump all the way to the base of the triangle. Measured by Michael. Incredible, isn't it? It's like La Hump is a representation of some part of Nolan's Cross with a different orientation, but they used it. So I'm not as good as Google Earth with, well, it's not that I'm as good as Michael with Google Earth, it's that I don't have his files and I don't have his markers, so I can't do it live like he does. But believe me, it's true, those distances are the same. Which gives me then the opportunity to show you the associated combined picture, where you've got the bottom of the cross, same length as the bottom of the cross, and you have the top part of the quadrant, same as the top part of the cross, distance-wise, when you position properly Zena Halpern map as we did. And you got cone A, I put A here. All right, so that's verification number 3. Incredible that the distances match perfectly. Let's carry on. Number 4, the Ver line on a round island. So again, this is the bird eye view of the full positioning. The full positioning comes from Frog Island's landing and come from Round Island east-west line. And it's like two pieces of a fork taking your Zena Halpern's map and positioning and sizing it correctly, just with those two lines. We're gonna pay attention now to the east-west line. That is the Ver line in red here. This line here, huh? This line. So this line, when Zena Halpern's map is positioned properly, the east-west line register Round Island on the only 3 rocks of the island. Courtesy of Michael again, that's the east-west line, the Ver line again. And there's only 3 rocks on this poor round island. There's that rock, and that rock. And you see the east-west line hits directly the rocks. Coincidence? We were talking about this together about yesterday, and I can't believe it's a coincidence. Either somebody put those rocks there to feed and fuel the hoax of the Zena Halpern's map. It would have been seen people moving rocks around on this island. There would have been testimonies. I think those rocks were there from the beginning, and I think the island didn't have any rock. They brought them there on purpose. And you can see the little V there. it's kind of the hint of the little ver. It marks the V. 21 degrees, you would find that 21 degrees somewhere else on the island, but that's another video that Michael did for us. What's incredible is when you put and position the map properly using the ver line hint, the ver line hint hits those two rocks as an alignment. And that's, to me, quite peculiar. Clue number 5, or proof number 5. When the Zena Halpern's map is correctly positioned, well, you remember here from the first videos, the very first one, the little V's wanders there with no reason, and we found a little V here, and we found a little V there, etc. And there was a little V here. Again, you see that that mark with the little bar, like a distance or something. And that line here is wrong. On Round Island, the island doesn't have a jetty or any thing like that. So this enticed and gave an indication of Michael to draw a line there, and you can see this line. It's the pink line here. The pink line goes down, 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 and intersects a special point on the east-west line. And if you take the bark line, you take the axis, you would see everybody is meeting at the same point. So let's see what it gives. When the map is correctly positioned, the intersection of Round Island clue, so the Round Island on the drawing on Zena's map, and the bark axis is here, it registers a point at cone D, which is already quite peculiar. You need to position the map correctly to achieve that. And on top of that, the angle created here, right there, this angle is bisected, meaning is cut into two halves by the backbone of Nolan Cross, right? Which is peculiar, because if you move the map orientation-wise a couple of degrees clockwise or counterclockwise, you would not achieve this anymore. The fact that Nolan's Cross main axis bisects this angle made by those two clues is on purpose. It's not by chance. And again, it proves that the map is correctly positioned, because if it was not correctly positioned, you would not achieve this. Interesting. Let's carry on. The last verification number 6. There's one more after that. When you position the map correctly, you end up having the alignment, La Hump, the oak entrance again, the triangle of Peter, and cone A exactly as the S of South Sud hits the line. That's this location. And that only happens hitting cone A in this configuration. Otherwise, if you were moving, rotating, or missizing, you would hit cone A here, or you would cone A there. There was no cone A anymore. The only place to hit cone A is with this alignment and positioning. So it's another proof that you're hitting something concrete on the island, something real, when the map is in this position. And the only way to achieve this is to put this map in this configuration. The last one, and we're going back to the, now that we took care of the Round Island east-west line, we're going to take care of the landing part. And the landing, which is given on Zena's map here, is correct, because why did we put the landing here? Why not here? Why not there? Why not here? Why not there? Why not here? There's a reason why the landing is exactly at this place, though this doesn't show you. So again, the landing is the extent, is when you go from the set point to the 429 extension, you reach the landing. But this landing is very peculiar. It's got something very interesting about it. The landing on Frog Island here is confirmed by the architect, the person or the people who created this island geometry, by the position of the stone triangle, which is here. Michael calls it now the origin, and we see one in a second. The landing point on Frog Island, this one, is at equidistance from the stone triangle. This distance is the same, represented by this circle, as the distance from the rock on Round Island used on the Ver line. It's equidistant, meaning these distances are the same. Isn't that unbelievable? When Michael, it was like a month ago on his one of the latest video that he demonstrates by Google Earth that from the landing to the Peters triangle, stone triangle, you get the same distance as from the stone triangle to the Round Island rock boulder. Incredible. Knowing that Round Island rock is used to create the east-west line and the landing is used to create the landing line. So first of all, it confirms Zena Halpern's map is correctly positioned because Zena Halpern's map gives us the position of the landing, both graphically and then later by geometry. And this, regardless of Zena Halpern's, this point was chosen on a very special purpose. It was chosen by the position of the stone triangle because this is equidistant to that, and you're using those 2 points in the construction of your geometry. Which makes Michael believe that, or concludes, or at least he told me this, the position of stone triangle was set first, or maybe it was in one of his videos, based on the landing and Round Island boulder position, based on the Round Island boulder position and the landing position. Mind you, I've been thinking about this a couple of days ago, maybe weeks, that at the time they built the island, probably 1200 something, the water level was lower. So maybe there's a rock that's totally submerged now that we don't see anymore. Especially this is deep. Waters. As we know, the boats can anchor there from the video I made called The Voyage because there's enough water depth. So maybe it's submerged and there was a boulder or a rock or something and it's not on the ground. If anybody's scuba diving near Frog Island, have a check for us. That would be very interesting. But anyways, so probably they chose this place based on that and that boulders or places, and then the rest of the geometry is just rolling. It all derives from the Nolan's cross and from the triangle of Peter. That's verification number 7, that the Zena Halpern map is correctly positioned because it also reveals exactly this point first graphically and then by geometry works. Thank you very much. I hope this video was interesting. The last question I got for you is, do you believe this map is fake? Do you believe it's fake is not the right word? That whoever created it, however it was created, and you can go all the way to Scott Walter's testimony that Bill Jackson made it to associated with a romance book he was writing. Well, the guy took a lot of pain to achieve what we just seen here. As I was saying, I don't know if it was to Michael or a member of my family the other day, if what we believe after all those videos on both channels is under Oak Island, that mechanism, and it's unbelievable, isn't it? And if you're still watching our videos, it's because you know it's unbelievable. But if all that is a fake and a hoax, it's even more unbelievable that people thought about such a mechanism, which as a fluid mechanics engineer I never seen ever in my entire life, the hydraulic vault, with the marker on the island, with the calculation, somebody took a lot of pain to create quite some hoax, and it's also unbelievable on its own right. So whatever, we don't care, we're just gonna carry on and try to reveal everything we can from those maps and rematching with existing elements that have been destroyed, some of them, most of them, all of them, by Dunfield, by other people, but we got traces, we got proof, and with our modern tools that are Google Earth, PowerPoint for the images, and 2 crazy brains of a Frenchman and an American fellow, we're gonna probably crack it. Thank you very much for watching. Love you all. Take care and subscribe if you haven't done so. Bye bye and later.